When down becomes up. Sarah had always been a bit paranoid, but her fear of gravity reversing had become all-consuming. She had read every article and scientific study she could find on the subject and had convinced herself that it was only a matter of time before the Earth's gravity would suddenly and without warning, reverse. She began to take insane precautions to avoid being dropped out into the sky when the gravity reversed. She would only sleep in her bed if it was securely bolted to the floor and surrounded by heavy furniture. She would only leave her house if she was wearing a harness and was tethered to the ground. She would only eat food that was heavy and wouldn't float away when the gravity reversed. Her friends and family tried to reassure her that the gravity was not going to reverse, but she refused to listen. "You don't understand, it's only a matter of time," she would say. "The signs are all there, the science is clear." They began to avoid her, thinking she was crazy. One day, Sarah was at home alone when she felt a strange sensation. She could feel the gravity pulling on her in different directions. She panicked and ran to her bedroom, where she had prepared a special gravity-proof room. She locked herself inside and waited for the end to come. But the end never came. The gravity returned to normal and Sarah was left alone in her room, wondering if she had lost her mind. Years passed, and Sarah's fear of the gravity reversing never left her. She continued to live her life in fear, always preparing for the worst. She spent her days stocking up on heavy items, researching and reinforcing her house, and looking for other people who shared her fear. One day, while she was at the grocery store, she met a man named Jack who had similar fears of gravity reversing. They began to talk and he told her about a group of people who were also prepping for the end. Sarah was overjoyed, finally, people who understand her fear. They decided to join the group and they spent their days preparing together. They reinforced their homes, stockpiled heavy items, and even did practice drills to ensure they knew what to do when the end came. But even with the support of the group, Sarah's fear never dissipated. She would often have nightmares about the gravity reversing and would wake up in a cold sweat. Her husband, who had stuck by her through all of this, became increasingly worried about her mental state. One day, while she was at home, the ground began to shake. The lights flickered and objects began to float in the air. The gravity had reversed just as she had feared. Sarah could hear her husband screaming her name, but she had already run to her bedroom. She locked herself in her gravity-proof room, just as she had practiced. As she floated in the air, tethered to the ground by her trusty harness, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. She had been right all along, and now she was the only one who would survive the end of the world. But as she floated there, alone in the dark, Sarah realized that being right was not enough. She felt guilty for not being able to save her husband and her friends. She realized the true horror of her fear, the price it had cost her and the ones she loved. As she floated in the sky, tears streaming down her face, Sarah knew that she had to find a way to reverse the gravity, not just for herself but for the world and the people she loved. Sarah knew that she had to act fast if she wanted to save the world and the people she loved. She quickly untethered herself from the ground and began to search for a solution. She remembered a conversation she had with Jack about a scientist who had been working on a device that could control gravity. Sarah knew that this was her only hope. She set off on a journey to find the scientist and his device. She encountered many obstacles along the way, but she was determined to succeed. After many months of searching, Sarah finally found the scientist and his device. It was a large, complicated machine that required a lot of power to operate. But Sarah knew that she had to try. She activated the device and waited anxiously as the machine hummed to life. Suddenly, she felt a strange sensation. The gravity was reversing. Sarah watched in amazement as the objects in the room slowly began to drop to the ground. The machine had worked. The gravity had been reversed. As she watched the world return to normal, Sarah felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had saved the world, and the people she loved. But she also knew that her fear of the gravity reversing would never truly leave her. She would always be looking over her shoulder, always be prepared for the worst. But now, she had a sense of purpose, a drive to protect the world and the people she loved from the dangers that threatened them. And so, Sarah dedicated her life to studying and understanding gravity, to ensure that the world would never have to experience the horrors of a reversed gravity again. She became an advocate for her cause and helped other people who suffered from the same fear. She finally found peace, not just for herself but for the world.